Alrighty. We are broadcasting. And for the next little minute, we're going to have the awesome musical number. There's a part of me that wants to play the girl from Ipanema over the Holosuite thing. Alright, we are recording, and I am going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Attention Crusaders, you are now listening to Vox Arkhona, a production of Holosuite Media. By the will of the immortal Emperor of Mankind, it has been decreed that the following broadcast of Vox Arkhona may not be suitable for all ages. The views expressed on this Voxcast are solely those of the individual providing them, and do not represent the opinion of this station, website, or any affiliated partner. Audience discretion is advised.
Attention on the battle fleet. This is Captain Ramascus of the Imperial Star Cruiser Vox Arkhona. Please listen carefully to the following announcement.
In accordance with the Codex Astartes, we hope that you have a productive trip to Arkhona and arrive with the will to deliver the Emperor's judgment. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes, Brother Posthumus, what is it?
Do you know why the Primarch of the Dark Angels Legion was late to the defense of Terra?
I do not know, brother. Please enlighten me.
Because he was lying around. Greetings, Crusaders. Welcome to Vox Arkhona Mission 5, recording on Sunday, May 24th, 2015, and coming from you live from the Battlefleet Charon in the Segmentum Obscurus. Yes, we are live. I am Gigabyte, and I am pleased to share the Fleet's Vox Relay with Katsu. How you doing, dude?
Wait, I'm alive!
He's alive! Yes, we've been away for a little while. The real life got the better of us. Although I prefer to say that we were seconded to the Death Watch for an indeterminable amount of time. Hope everyone's been getting on fine and been catching up on Eternal Crusade. What you been getting up to, Katsu?
Well, I've gotten tons of real life craziness has occurred. I'm engaged now with some great stepkids or future stepkids or however you want to put it. And took some time away from a lot of video gaming to do some real lifing. And now I'm kind of gradually coming back to playing video games and coming back to Eternal Crusade because it's a great time to be alive.
Definitely.
In this Emperor's Imperium.
For those people who listen to Beyond the Veil, you probably know that I've since had a mini bite, as we call it, and my life is pretty much gone to hell. So yes.
Oh, you love it.
Yeah, I do. These are worth it. So yes. So let's look at what has happened while we've been away. First and foremost, Miguel has left the company. Sad face. But we have a new senior producer in Nathan Richardson. Seems like a good guy. Used to work for Eve and on Defiance and well, I thought was pretty cool, was fill up World of Darkness for a bit. Yay!
I have nothing nice to say about CCP. They canceled World of Darkness. They can kiss my butt.
Oh, never mind. I was severely upset that they cancelled World of Darkness, to be honest.
Oh, no. I was absolutely literally sold. Like, I was going to play Secret World until World of Darkness released, and then I was just going to kiss it off and just be like, deuces, I'm out.
Yeah, no, I was the same. I always said that Secret World was my World of Darkness until World of Darkness came out. But yeah, never mind. Hopefully another company will pick it up.
Well, the problem is CCP is licensed to all White Wolf products. So unless they decide to sell off the MMO property or let other people handle it, then the game's pretty much done.
That's very true. Well, we can but hope.
But what I will say is this. I am super glad that we have Nathan Richardson. And the reason that I'm super glad we have Nathan is when the very first time he released A State of the Crusade, I read it and I was like, where in the metric hell does this dude get off? Like, I want to punch this dude in the face. And then I read it again. And when I read it again, I noticed that a lot of this, I want to say well-wishing or wish listing or whatever that behavior has been doing was being replaced with no nonsense, let's get this shit done. Let's put the rubber on the road. And the more I have seen from him, I simultaneously go, I want to punch this dude in the face for some reason. And then when I read it again, like, I see that his plan is kind of the same thing that I'm thinking about, in that I want it, like, I want realistic, reachable, achievable goals. And if we have to baby step that to preserve the IP and to have an incredibly playable game, then that's what I want to do. And so, like, the moment I realized that he had replaced Miguel, I was like, holy crap, this is a good idea.
No, definitely. I mean, Miguel was a great producer, senior producer, but he always had this what I would term idealism about him. As much as he loved the IP and really wanted to do the game, it always seemed like his goals were like a little bit out of his reach almost. And I think Nathan brings that that kind of realism and down to earthness to the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, we had Steven leave us as well, unfortunately. Looks like he's moved on to greener pastures, as they say. Put out a tweet saying that he would miss the team and that his next adventure is just beginning. So yes, he's working on a new young game studio in Montreal, and we obviously wish him well. But yeah, it should be interesting for him.
I don't, Xenos, traitor, exterminatus. No, I'm kidding.
Heresy.
But we did have some other really cool things happen. Eternal Crusade won Most Anticipated MMO of 2015 at MMOgames.com. Beat out Citizen of Titans and Star City. No kidding. City of Titans and Star Citizen.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to City of Titans, but I'm glad to see Eternal Crusade won the Most Anticipated MMO, because like
I'm looking forward to Eternal Crusade. I don't know what you're talking about.
Totally.
But also it got third in MMORPG's Player Choice Awards behind EverQuest Next and Black Desert.
I've not heard of Black Desert, actually. I had to read up on that one when I first
Well, apparently it beat out Eternal Crusade.
Yeah, I don't see why. I think Eternal Crusade is better, but you know.
I saw something about Black Desert, and I was just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Also, we had count them, 6 news stories from Graham McNeil released while we were away. I've actually sat down and read through pretty much most of them. They're awesome. By the titles of Blood Price, X Marks the Spot, Death Mark, Black Pearl, Hound of the Warp, and The Silent Death, which those in know should know that is something to do with Jane Czar.
Wait, Jane Czar?
Yep.
Why would she be relevant to Arkhona?
Well, she was announced as the Eldar faction leader, which I was a bit confused by. I sat there and went, a Phoenix Lord? Why? Why is there no Farseer? It's like Farseers are like the leaders of the Eldar and stuff. I thought, why?
Well, I mean, first off, each of the Eldar have their own agendas anyway, and we never really know what all the Eldar are up to at any given moment. And while the Farseers are the de facto kind of heads of the Eldar race, I mean, the Phoenix Lords each have their own agendas, and they're all really, really powerful people because they control an entire aspect temple.
True, but I mean, Phoenix Lords aren't the ones to generally lead an army. They usually swoop in, do their crap, and go in a very Eldar style. I actually was more surprised they didn't choose an Autarch.
Yeah, well, I think that knowing the things that we now know in hindsight, and we're going to talk about, you don't want to be like. We're going to kind of gloss over this real quick, or I'm going to gloss over this real quick. But with Abaddon and with a warlord, you don't want to be like, it's Abaddon the Despoiler, and Scarblitz the Dreg Fang Ripper, and Autarch Steve. Like, you don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? You want to take a recognized name in the property, right? You want to take a recognized name in the property that isn't bound necessarily, because the thing is, like, we know what Eldrad Ultherain, or whatever his name was, we know what he was doing during the 13th Black Crusade. We know he's too busy to stop and go deal with Abaddon, because I seem to remember earlier they were talking about it being this game taking place between second and third Armageddon.
Yeah, something like
I think they've moved the timeline officially up. I think Nathan mentioned this the other day. They moved the timeline officially up to after the 13th Black Crusade, or just after, which is why Abaddon's so relevant. But at the same point, Eldrad was busy fighting. What's his name? That Thousand Sun.
Magnus?
No, the named one, Ahriman. Eldrad's busy dealing with Ahriman, keeping him out of the Black Library.
Oh yeah.
And the Webway. So
I forgot about
clearly we can't use Eldrad. And really, which of the that leaves the aspects, unless
Pretty
you're
much
creating some new character.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, which aspect would give a shit about this place? I think they mentioned somewhere. Oh no, it's Morgan Raw's Craft World was up for vote. But the thing is this though: which of the other aspect temples would care?
That's true.
I think that's why Jane Czar gets put in, especially since she's named. It's not like Farseer Steve.
Yeah, she is a very popular character as well, I have to admit.
That's the other thing, because Banshees are awesome.
They are very awesome. We also had the Orc faction leader, character by the name of Warlord Scarblitz the Drake Fang Ripper. Which is a really weird name. I had trouble with that the first time I read it.
I'm convinced that they were going for like a tongue twister.
Yeah. Couldn't just do Scarblitz Fang Ripper.
Warboss Steve.
I was happy to see that they like created an original character for that though, rather than going for the default of Gazgul.
Well, this also goes into Gazgul had nothing to do anywhere near the 13th Crusade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's still terrassing off in the middle of nowhere getting chased by Yarick and the Black Templars.
Pretty much.
And the good thing is, this is the one thing I like about the orcs, is that, like, unless you're going super cheesy and campy, like, you can generally just throw some improper English together and get a warlord. And then you just talk about how badass he is, because he's an orc.
Pretty much.
But yeah, I do like original characters in the 40K franchise, because, you know, like, you grab a Codex and the Space Wolves, up until just, a couple years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they only had, Ulrich, Ragnar, Logan.
Stormcaller.
Yeah.
And that was it. Oh,
but then they added Loki and all these other people. And...
Yeah.
Oh, no. They didn't have... I thought they didn't have Stormcaller, but they did have the Dreadnought Bjorn.
Well, they've always had Bjorn the Fell-Handed.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They dropped Niall Stormcaller after, I think, the 2nd or 3rd edition of the Codex. But that's when they brought in Logan.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Blood Angels still to this day. Like, apart from the fact that they added the Sanguiner and the other stupid angel, they've always had Dante, Mephiston, and Tycho.
Yeah.
Oh, and Corbulo.
Oh, yeah, the Sanguiner.
But even then, like, it's always been those 4. You know?
Pretty much.
So I do like occasionally adding a new character to the mythology.
It does bring a nice breath of fresh air.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's also like, and it'll never happen. I don't care what any of our listeners say or hear or think about this, but there's a huge push. People were upset that Abaddon was the leader of the Chaos faction, because they wanted Eliphas the Inheritor from Dawn of War.
Oh,
and this runs into a huge... Everybody was screaming, Eliphas, man, where's Eliphas? Well, the problem with that is that Eliphas belongs to THQ, not Games Workshop. And so it's the same thing as like the Blood Ravens. Like, the reason that GW has Blood Ravens miniatures was to hook people who were playing Dawn of War.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you saw these guys in the game, now come buy the models.
Right. Look, it's the exact same models we've had for years, but they're painted different.
Exactly.
And you'll never suspect a thing. But, yeah, so I'm glad that there's a new character. I'm glad that they're out of their way to... I'm glad that they're not going out of their way to create whole new warbands or factions or whatever. They're sticking to the canon, except for like, we'll give you Scarblets.
Exactly. Same here. I do like seeing an original character every now and again. We have also had the voting for the 5th sub-faction start. First of all was the Eldar for the 5th Craft World. Out of those, there were 3 available to vote on. Altansar, Morgan Ra, the Dark Reaper Phoenix Lord, his home craft world. Mymera, and I'm going to butcher this one because I've never been able to pronounce this one. Ymelok, as far as I know.
Stupid knife ears.
And out of those, Altansar won. I think because pretty much everyone already knew what that one was, and the other 2 were kind of like stuck in the fluff somewhere.
Awesome. The orcs were a little bit easier because they had 2?
Yeah.
There was the blood axes and the snake bites.
Yeah.
Snake bites.
And pretty much everyone knows the snake bites. If you're gonna have snake bites, you may as well have fantasy orcs. You know.
Right. So they went with blood axes because camouflage is awesome. What? Camouflage? You're crazy. And this past Wednesday, they did the chaos. They opened the chaos vote. And they gave us 3 choices. They gave us the Crimson Slaughter, which came from like the newest campaign thing they did.
Yeah, it was
right?
the Space Wars versus Crimson Slaughter in that battle box thing.
And then the Red Corsairs, which of course is Huron Blackheart's warband.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Alpha Legion. The Alpha Legion. The
Alpha
Legion. Anyway.
Legio 20th.
Right. Here's my whole thing is this. Like, first off, I'm glad they didn't pick the Alpha Legion and the Red Corsairs and Warband Steve. Like there are 3 established names in the Games Workshop property. But that being said, like, you put the Alpha Legion against 2 warbands.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that, oh, well, this doesn't favor this gameplay, or this doesn't favor this. Like, Hail Hydra. You know? Like, the Alpha Legion.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, the legions should come out first. The same way that whenever the Space Marine vote opens, they're gonna, if they say, let's do the Imperial Fists and the Blood Ravens and the Big Faces. Like, I'm always gonna go with a first founding. Like, I'm always gonna say, give me a first founding.
I think they have said on the forums about at least for the Space Marine vote, that they want the first founding chapters out first. It's a little bit difficult for the Chaos ones though, because they've said several times that they want to steer clear of the ones that are dedicated to a particular god.
Yeah, I get that.
So,
I get the wanting to avoid the marked ones.
Mm.
But that makes it easier for them to put those guys out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, they want to do Chaos Undivided first, and the only other Chaos Undivided first founding is Alpha, and then what else do they do?
Well, the Night Lords are undivided.
And the Night Lords would be in it.
Oh yeah, they are. No, they are, aren't they? I don't know. I don't play Chaos. Chaos is dirty and filthy, and I have my Dark Heresy role-playing book sitting right next to me. So, like, Chaos is evil.
We've already got Night Lords, Iron Warriors, Black Legion, and what was the other one? I forget. Eternal Crusade has left me.
Well, but still, like, okay, well, we're not voting for the 75th unaligned sub-faction here. We're voting for the 5th, and I will gladly take the Alpha Legion, and then let them work on the god dedication. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because here's the deal:
that was the other one.
if you're chaos and you're playing undivided, you have a reason. Oh, you know who else we have? The Word Bearers. I think that's one of the 4.
Yeah, that's the other one that's in there.
Right, but the thing is this: if you're going in as a dedicated Chaos player, like, what faction you want to roll. Like, if I were to roll Chaos, like, I want to be a Word Bearer because I love the Word Bearer story. But then, other than that, I want to be a Thousand Sun. Because yay Zench.
Yeah,
and I know Nathan and the crew will make really awesome Psyker powers.
Definitely. It's kind of the same with the Space Marines. I mean, if you're going to go in as a Space Marine, you already know what chapter you're going to choose.
Yes, and see, this is the thing. Like, my absolute favorite chapter, it's mainly a fluff chapter, but it is a canon chapter. It is a subchapter of the Imperial Fists. And and like nowadays it's got really close ties to the Black Templars. But I don't want to be a Black Templar. You know, I'll probably grab an Imperial Fist or maybe an Ultramarine, because why not be an Ultra Smurf?
Why not? But no, I mean, if
Right.
if the obviously if the Celestial Lions don't get in until very much later, which that probably won't get until very much later, but
Well, I was going to say, according to the lore, there are exactly 5 left. like if I'm not going to say, man, I'm going to get my Celestial Lion sub-faction. No, like, I will probably fold in under the Imperial Fists and be happy.
yeah,
But at the same time, like, if ever there is a Celestial Lion in Eternal Crusade, then you don't want to know the depths that I sank in order to get that Celestial Lion in game.
you don't want to know what favors Katsu had to do for the EC team.
Right, like, now don't get me wrong, Katie, Nathan, make me a Celestial Lion. I don't even have to have faction goodies. I just want to be a Celestial Lion. Anyway. But yeah, so there's that. Now in Into the Warp episode 19, they specifically said keep voting, because even though tons of Alpha Legionnaires are going, we are Alpharius, we are Alpharius, we are Alpharius, that's may not be what's going on in the votes. So if you are a founder, get in there and put your vote down so that people know that you want to be Alpha Legion. I mean, whatever Chaos Legion, not Warband. I mean, whatever Chaos sub-faction you want to play. So long as
there
it's Alpha
was
Legion.
there was on the Chaos Space Marine forum, there was a pre-vote poll put up by one of the users, so just kind of testing the water to see who would be coming out on top, and pretty much the Alpha Legion came out on top in that poll. So I think it's a foregone conclusion.
Well, that's just it. Never assume a foregone conclusion when it comes to the Alpha Legion, because haha, chaos.
No, this is very true.
Well, and I think that other people are thinking the same way we are, in that the legions really should come out first.
Yeah, I think everyone has that feeling about it, to be honest.
Right.
Did you see the Angry Joe video about his impressions on the game pre-alpha?
You know what? I believe I did. I believe I saw it. It's been a while. I haven't looked at it recently. But what I do know is that Angry Joe and Total Biscuit, like, I listened to them and then I formed my opinion, because they both generally have a really good idea, and they feel that I do sometimes.
My opinion of Angry Joe himself, notwithstanding, he does do a good job at putting out like some good information in terms of like gaming in general, but seeing just the childlike glee in his face when he was playing, when he was speaking about him playing at the convention, and I think from his other reviews of things like Blood Bowl and stuff like that, it's clear that he's an avid GW player, and I think he's looking forward to this as much as anyone else.
Well, the thing is that, like, this is one of those games, and I want all of our fans to listen here, friends. This is one of those games that is either going to be absolutely phenomenally right, or it is going to be utterly irrevocably wrong. It's so tiny that it sets the GW neckbeards aflame.
Yeah, I think there's no in between with this game. This is either going to be an unmitigated failure or a glorious triumph.
But the thing is this. Well, this goes back to something we talked about, oh god, nearly a year ago, when we did Mission 3.
Yeah.
Where players, and I'm a GW player, and Gig's a GW player, and a bunch of people are GW players. Like, we become rabid, like insanity sometimes, about what we're doing. And so the issue that we run into is that people like the apothecary's Narcathium is on his left arm instead of his right arm. I fucking hate this game forever.
That's very true.
Just play the damn game.
I mean,
go shoot some Chaos guys. Why do you have to worry about where your drill hand is?
but I mean, it comes from a place of love, that doesn't it? Because the people that do that absolutely adore this intellectual property, so much so that it's something they've grown up with their entire life. I mean, I like most people, got into it when I was like, 13, 14. So it was my childhood. So I think a lot of people that go off on one like that, it does come from a place of love.
Well, I think, because see, here's the thing. I absolutely, utterly despise the miniature game. Like, with a passion. I do. No, I have played the game long enough. I have collected close to 18 armies over the course of me playing this game. I've played every, like, the only Games Workshop faction I've not owned are, well, the Adeptus Mechanis now, and the Squats. I lie. I have owned a Squat army, but I never owned the Codex, and I never fielded it. Like, a friend gave it to me. I'm not going to tell you what I did with them because you'd cry. But the point is, like, I am officially done with GW. I have to hobby, and I don't like to hobby.
Yeah, no, I stopped collecting a long time ago. We got way too to put up the bloody price each year. I just had a mini rant, and now that I have a family, it's just like, nah, can't do it.
Right, and never mind the fact, it's been, what, a year or two since the last Space Marine Codex?
Yeah, about that.
The current rumors that are starting to cycle on Bell of Lost Souls and Bolter and Chainsword and all this is that the Marine next Codex release.
Right.
It's the next Codex to release. So you just, a year ago, $3 a get.
Yeah, see, even the prices for the codices just floor me. I can't do it. I used to buy all the books just because of reading the background fluff, but geez, guys, seriously, it's just too much.
Well, neither here nor there.
Anyway, yes.
Angry Joe dug it.
And that's pretty much
we dig it too.
The ins and outs of stuff that happened while we were away. And myself and Katsu have been catching up with the ins of the warps over the last week or so. Do you want 18? Because I only got about halfway through that one before work interrupted.
Well, really, episode 18, well, Into the Warp has sort of fallen into a predictable pattern of play some games, do a little bit of question and answer, maybe some, like, exclusive video about sound production or something. They'll play a 6v6 or 8v8, and then they'll do some more Q&A and give away some stuff.
I liked the video of them playing around with power tools and stuff. That was awesome.
Well, I get that too. But the thing is this, episode 18, the big takeaway, because it was 16 was the audio thing, but 18, the bulk of it was taken up with the open world, the road to the open world.
Yeah.
Because we were originally promised modules. Like, oh, you're gonna go walk around your strike cruiser for 3 months until it's time to do something else. But the problem with that is that the strike cruiser was probably not going to be part of the game as part of the final iteration. And so you'd have to take developer dollars to develop this thing that you're not going to use. And as Nathan repeats this a number of times, if this was a company with a $500 million budget, then what? Yeah, we'll design this is Calgar's bathroom,
I want to see that now.
But no, there's an awesome throne. It's like the not quite golden throne, and he sits on it.
Keeps Matt Ward.
It's the porcelain throne. And so the thing is this. They still want to give us the big, gigantic, immersive, crazy world. And they want to get bolters in hand and boots on the ground and the game getting played. So what they're doing is this kind of phased approach. Wherein we're going to start with a continent that is 16 kilometers by 16 kilometers wide. Okay? To give you an idea, Planetside 2 continents are 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers. So, holy crap, huge size. The initial continent is going to be the continent of Malcadia, which is not bad Cadia. It has nothing to do with Katie. It is in fact named after Malkador the Sigillite, who is the second most powerful psyker in the world. I can hide a moon.
Not just in the world, in the universe.
Right. So, additional continents will be released post-launch, but the plan is to split the continent into about 30 territories or so. And each one is going to be about 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers in size. Approximately 120 unique locations scattered across the entire continent, each one being its own unique map to fight on. Now, what I mean by that is there will be invisible kill zone walls to limit your ability to move between those maps. So what you're going to be dealing with is you will deploy into a map and you'll play a map-based game, very similar to kind of Call of Duty or whatever. Now, before you flip shit, because whenever this was initially proposed, remember the way I deal with Nathan is I'll read something he says and I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna punch you in the face, and then I read it again and I'm like, oh, this is what he's doing. So it looks like it's going to be sandbox map fights. But what it is there are artificial dividing lines in the map. And they're going to test these small games, and as they fine tune and as they get the balance of the game right, they're going to start gradually removing and peeling back those invisible lines.
That kill zone, I wasn't too sure on that when I was watching it. Is that going? Do you think that's going to act like a fatigue zone in some other games, where if you walk out of it, you start to take hits before you move back into the playable area, or do you think that's just going to be that's it done?
That's basically what I've been getting in the video. He said, and I don't remember who it was. My brain's dead. But basically, whenever you get close enough to the wall, it goes, you're leaving the zone. You can't go any further. Turn the hell around. And if you keep going after that, then you're nuked.
Right. Makes sense.
Which, I mean, realistically, you should be playing the map. You shouldn't be trying to go wander right now.
Oh, maybe you're a deserter.
Well, then you die and you're dumb. The thing is this, though. Territories will consist of a few outposts that will be necessary to capture, like 2 outposts to capture it. And then once enough of those outposts flip, then the stronghold will be active, and you'll be able to fight for that. And then bonuses will... outposts give your faction a benefit in the territory, such as reduced costs for units or better vehicles or whatever. Now, post-launch, I mean, you're still with me right now, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know about everyone else, but yeah.
You're like, my brain is dead. So post-launch, they'll open up the world progressively more and more until the whole continent becomes available to play without restriction. So if a territory consists of 3 outposts and a stronghold, then each one's going to be its own map, and as they peel back those barriers, that territory kind of becomes a unified game map. Originally, these smaller territories are going to be for 100 players, so 50 on 50. And then as the territory opens up, it'll be a 200 on 200 playable, which is about a quarter of the size of a PlanetSide 2 continent. So one territory will be able to accommodate about a quarter of the size of a PlanetSide 2 continent, which, if you've played PlanetSide 2, is ridiculous. Just the sheer number of people you can put in that map. Finally, several territories will be grouped together to form a larger map, which hosts about 500 players. And that is approximately the size of a PlanetSide 2 continent. Eventually, I will learn to English. And eventually, the world will get opened in stages, and finally, the entire continent will be open. And by that point, they will have seen how this implements, so that they'll be able to do the same thing on other continents. And ideally, if this game takes off and becomes super successful, then we may be able to leave orbit and go to different planets in the subsector or in the system.
Now, do you think they always had this planned, even when Miguel was running the team, or do you think this is a Nathan thing?
No, I think that this is new.
Yeah?
I think that... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, the way Miguel used to talk about it, it was very much, there's going to be like 2,000 on 2,000 and all that sort of stuff. And it sounds like they've suddenly gone, you know what? Probably not going to happen. Let's scale it back a bit.
Okay. Well, the thing is this. The thing about executive producers on video games is they have a job to do, and that is to deliver the product on time and under budget.
True.
And we talked about this even. And that's what I love about Vox Arkhona, and that's why other people should love Vox Arkhona, because when we call it several episodes ahead of time. My biggest concern, I really didn't think that 2,000 on 2,000 was reasonable for launch. And I mentioned that, and I said that. Mm-hmm. And also, as much as I love the module concept, once Nathan pointed out... Goodness, I'm yawning suddenly. Once Nathan pointed out how the system was going to have to work with, we can't make a firing range because we have other things we need to prioritize. I started seeing that the design logic needed to shift to a more realistic idea of what was going to happen. And you're not going to open up a full map and be like, yep, we're just going to let the first 1,000 people onto this game, because what's going to happen is there's going to be a server crash.
True.
And everybody goes stupid, and everybody hates the game. And you know this, and anybody who's listening in knows this. if you get a shit review out of the gate, it takes you 2 years and 10 positive reviews to get past that.
Well,
Just
they
look
say
at
you can only make a good first impression once.
right. Well, think about it. Look at like one of my absolute favorite games, and unfortunately it died on the block. Was The Matrix Online.
Oh,
The first
I so wish I got into that game.
right? The first year was plagued by bugs, and it was plagued by all of these things because, granted, MXO was pushing the envelope on a lot of fronts.
Very true.
The problem is that after that first issue, they straightened out their thing, and it became an amazingly fun game to play. And there was an immersive storyline, and everything was awesome. But the problem is, it was saddled with shit reviews from the gate. A lot of hype was built into it, and then they got shot in the face. Archage is another one. If you play this game, it's a beautiful game. It's awesome, and it could very well, like, I hate using the word WoW killer, but Archage could seriously be a WoW killer. The problem is, when it came stateside, it was plagued by so many bugs and so many issues that nobody wanted to deal with it. And so, even though Archage has undergone a lot of positive shifts and debugging, they still have that negative stigma. The other one, ESO, Elder Scrolls Online,
Yeah,
it came out of the gate and was an absolute flaming piece of crap.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last year, if you actually go back to it, and WildStar's the same thing. Like, just name MMOs. They're all crap, and then a year later they're really amazing, but they're having to fight that negative press.
It's true. I mean, SWTOR was the same. DCUO.
Right.
What's it called? Guild Wars 2. They've all had their fair share of flack thrown at them.
Right. So the thing is this. What I see Nathan doing, because I short story long, I don't think that this was Miguel's plan. I think he had a much more ambitious plan, and Nathan's job is to take this ambitious plan and peel it back to something that can win, or something that can make it. And so instead of going, "Oh, look, here's the deep end," and jumping off, he's like, "No, let's start small. And as we feel confident, we peel these layers back.
Makes sense.
We peel these layers back. And if you're a 40K player, this is nothing new. Congratulations, you are playing an escalation game.
Mm-hmm.
You are in an escalation tournament."
Pretty much.
We're starting off at 500 points, and we're going to climb from there. No super heavies, no Lords of War, no Santa Claus in his chariot. So I think that this is a much more realistic approach to what's needing to happen. Now, granted, I'm going to grab this thing from episode 19. Nathan said that there is a State of the Crusade letter coming out about this, but first off, it has to be drafted and revised by 3 people and then approved by Games Workshop before they even talk about it. So,
knowing Games Workshop, that'll probably be a long process.
Well, yeah, because we don't have Adeptus Mechanis.
Yeah.
We're not selling Adeptus Mechanis, so they don't care.
Yeah.
Dear GW, I love your property. I love your IP. I absolutely despise your miniature game and how you treat your people.
P.S. No one gives a shit about Lord of the Rings.
That this has nothing to do with Eternal Crusade or anything. Have you seen the Warhammer World pictures?
Yeah.
Have you seen the rumored Westeros Kingsguard?
Yeah.
Was that actually a rumor, or was that actually confirmed?
I don't think I ever really looked into that deeply enough.
Because
As
for the
far
love
as
of
I was
God,
aware, it was
I
just a rumor.
want Robert Baratheon on my desktop.
To
Anyway,
be honest, as far as I was aware, that was just a rumor, but I don't look into Lord of the Rings because, like I say, don't give a shit.
well, no, Lord of the Rings is the Westeros Kingsguard is Game of Thrones,
Oh, I don't give a shit about that either.
which that was like, wait a second, did Games Workshop get the Game of Thrones license? Because don't get me wrong,
This is gonna like alienate a lot of our listeners, but I really don't care about Game of Thrones.
well, no,
I hear more than enough about it at work, and it's just like, well, I don't need to watch it then, do I?
the TV show's okay. What I'm more looking at is I would love to see a miniature game in the Lord of the Rings vein, for a Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire. Especially since sitting right here, I have the Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game. So
I was gonna say there was a card game of Song of Ice and Fire as well, wasn't there?
There's card games and all that.
Yeah.
But I would love the Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game, and then if they release the miniature game, I can then have miniatures pre-built for me.
See, I played
that
a
makes
bit
me
of the
lazy.
card game, which was cool. It was all right, but
Yeah.
that TV show just hasn't hooked me.
That's
Sorry,
fine.
guys who listen to Geek Easy. Nah.
All right. So, like I said, there was a bunch of crap in 18 or stuff. Good information.
Yes, always good information.
But we could sit here talking about previous episodes because, after all, yeah, I went back and listened to episode 4 or mission 4, and that was Into the Warp number 5.
I know.
Or number 9 or something like that.
It was
So
really
we're
low
like
number.
10 into the warps behind, but let's talk about like 3 days ago. Let's talk about Into the Warp 19.
Recent stuff.
And Naked Sorcerer time.
Yeah, baby. So yes.
You want to lead off?
Yeah, episode 19 we had showing a showcase of like the sorcerer, the aspiring sorcerer, and the Space Marine apothecary, which looked pretty awesome, to be honest. I really quite like the armor on the apothecary. It looks awesome.
I love apothecaries because they're going to get shot all the time.
I did like the healing animation, despite the fact they say it's going to be replaced, like it's a work in progress thing. Apparently it's too big, but I quite like it.
Honestly, I hate it.
Why?
And I actually asked about this, and Katie and Nathan responded to me. The healing tree, Christmas tree animation, it's huge, and it's visible to the other side. And
that could probably go, but
well, that's the thing. Like on the one hand, if I'm Chaos and I'm shooting at a Marine, and for some reason he is not falling down and his health is climbing like a beast, then I'm gonna call hacks. Now, what I don't know is that right behind the wall in cover is an apothecary healing the shit out of this dude. But of course, but the other side of this is that if I'm sitting here as a Marine with a stalker bolter and I'm sniping, and I see this out of nowhere, I see this giant green Christmas tree show up in my line of sight, you bet your ass I'm scoping. And I'm going to shoot somebody.
Oh,
you know
fair
what I'm
enough.
saying?
You know, make it smaller.
I just think that when you looked at the graphic, and hopefully they'll replace it, it starts off at their base, wider than their shoulders, and then it kind of tapers up to hip width at the hips, and then it branches out into this god-awful tree that goes like a foot above the Marine's head and like twice the Marine's width. It was dumb. It's a giant flare that says "shoot me," And like, okay, we always end up comparing PlanetSide to Eternal Crusade, and other people do it too.
Can't be helped.
Well, when you take an engineer and you're repairing a Max, or when you take a medic and you're repairing a trooper, there's like a slight shimmer over the person. That's so say slight shimmer 3 times fast. Anyway, there's a slight shimmer over the person or the Max, but there's not this huge god awful death flare shoot me banner, that pops up.
Well, I did like the little what do you call it, caduceus that shows up above
I do
their
like
heads. The little twin snake symbol thing.
I think it's
The Medicaid
right, so to speak, but I don't want it to be nearly that big because that's a guaranteed death sentence.
But then if any healing graphic that they put on that, a good player, a good sniper is going to pick out on that, however big it is. Unless they make it just a standard animation, like the apothecary walks up, jabs the Narthesium into the guy, and then just walks away, which would be fine. But
right.
Um,
Like I said, I just think that the graphic is too big right now. It's setting up a sniper being able to see what different effects look like from a distance, but at the same time, like, it's so big that anybody can see it.
True.
No, that's just me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I was a little bit disappointed we didn't see more of the sorcerer, but seeing the word bearer's color scheme.
Well, did you catch where they said that they were working on the psychic powers, like, while they were recording the Twitch?
Yeah, I did catch that. I can't wait to see
So that means that psyker powers are coming.
Oh yeah, baby. But yeah,
So,
I can't wait to see that.
They did a 6v6 game. It wasn't anything. Like, we're getting to the point now. Well, we were there before, but like, they're making the game graphically more pretty, and they're fine-tuning little things here and there. But like, a 6v6 game is a 6v6 game.
Yeah, it was pretty good to watch. To be honest, I quite enjoyed it.
One thing that they mentioned while playing the 6v6 game was they're trying to make sure that they build the maps vertically. Like, they build the maps tall, which allow for elevation and setting up in elevated cover, and also for assault marines to both get up into and to drop down. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, other factions' assault units, too.
Yeah.
Because, like, warp spiders are going to use elevation as well.
And wall running.
Right.
Can't wait.
But that's the thing, like, and it's something that you don't usually get very well in a lot of first-person shooter games, or even third-person shooter games, is this sense of giant buildings and stuff.
That's true.
You get a lot of flatline stuff, and we've talked about it before. Flat stuff that if you were to see it in the real world, it wouldn't make any sense it being there. Let's put these tank teeth sitting in the middle of the road for no reason.
No, that's right.
But they also mentioned that Founders Access is effectively closed alpha. Founders Alpha and Founders Access are effectively closed alpha and early access,
which we kind of already knew anyway.
We kind of
knew, or at least assumed.
But it's good to have it spelled out, especially when you're dealing with a company that prides itself on its transparency.
That's very true. In the Q&A, because I didn't quite get get that bit because I had baby in the background and stuff like this. So I missed a few bits on episode 19. Was the hand swapping and shoulder cam swapping thing? I missed that bit.
Somebody had asked whether or not, because like Marines are right-handed. The Marine animations are all right-handed. And so as a result, the Marine is firing from his right hand, the camera is over his right shoulder, and somebody asked if you'd be able to switch so that the Marine is left-handed and the camera's going over his left shoulder, or, you know, any variation thereof. And the team said that while there are a lot of niceties that they are taking from other games or learning to use from other games, but because of budgetary constraints and because of a bunch of other options and things, that's something that just doesn't seem like something we need to bother with.
Yeah, it's not necessary at the moment,
right.
is it?
And so they were like, we're going to focus on this. And besides, especially as it applies to Space Marines and even Chaos Marines to a degree, like hypno indoctrination and everything else, like you're a Marine, you shoot with your right hand. Like that's how you're trained to shoot.
It's true.
And that actually reaches back to another Q&A question that got asked, but all right. Did you want to touch base on any of this other Q&A stuff?
Yeah, can do. What are commonly termed environmental NPCs, more commonly known to us neckbeard people as servitors, serfs, slaves, cultists, bits and pieces like that. Background characters. Gretchens, grots, lots of grots. They will be in later on, most likely in social zones, so in your main base camp and places like that. I personally think you'll probably have them as like vendors and stuff like that.
Well, I also think that you're going to find most of these guys just chilling and, or not like chilling. Like you're not going to have a servitor kick back with a margarita or anything, but
sitting at the bar draining a pint.
Yeah, just be like, "What is up in the name of the Emperor?" But your environmental NPCs, because people are, people want to. Let me back it up. If people just wanted to run around in a map and shoot at each other, they'd still be playing Space Marine.
Well, they'd still be playing Counter-Strike.
Well, if they want to do a 40K version, they'd still be playing Space Marine.
True.
They want kind of an immersive world, and since Dark Millennium didn't take off, and whatnot, this is the closest we have to a 40K MMO RPG. They want the fluff. They want the window dressing. And if we're not going to have Grimaldus with all of his bajillion servitors, then we want to see servitors around somewhere. Otherwise, we're just people chilling out with funny armor.
Definitely.
So, some other things that we covered, or in the Q&A, discussion about flyers. Flyers are still more than a way out, because when flyers come in, and also people were asked about missile launchers and things like that. And the answer was, when flyers come in, missile launchers and stuff like that will come in. I'm a little upset about this. Because a tried and true combat technique is crack missiles at HQ units, because hell with those guys. And so I'm kind of leery about it, but at the same time, we talked about this with las cannons. I don't want to be throwing tank anti-armor weapons at infantry. I want it to be, the punishment fitting the crime, so to speak. Also, drop pods will be looked at as the world opens up, because one of the things they don't want to do is to make it where you just drop pod into the enemy's base and fight. Something else that got covered was stealth/infiltration. And they mentioned that there's no precise stealth plans, but units like striking scorpions will be harder or nearly impossible to see at a distance.
So those people who are looking forward to playing scouts, you might have to wait a little while.
Yeah, well, the thing is this though. They mentioned this in the live stream in the Twitch that there isn't a true stealth unit in the game. Scouts aren't stealthed. Scouts just use cameline cloaks, and they know how to use cover. They're not invisible. The closest you get are the what is it? Is it the lictor? Like the lictor,
yes.
pre-deploys on the board or something, and he's invisible until he strikes.
Yeah, it has visual camouflage, very similar to a predator.
Yeah.
Ironically enough.
So I mean, that's what they're kind of going with. Is they're not going to have stealth mechanics like becoming invisible. Just because it was in Dawn of War doesn't mean that it's real. Cultists don't become invisible just magically.
Hey, you shut your mouth. The Conservatives in the UK are going to replace the Human Rights Act with the Warhammer 40,000 rulebook. Guarantee it.
I remember that. Another concern that popped up was that Stern Guards and Vanguards could potentially become more decorated than a chaplain. Sorry, yawning. I don't know why. It's like 5 Central U.S.
Yeah, it's like 11 o'clock.
That's why we love you, Gig.
I'm knackered, but I'm powered by Red Bull.
Right. So Stern Guards, Vanguards, one of the concerns is that Eternal Crusade has said that they want you to not necessarily get better gear as you level up, but look better as you level up. More decorations, more all that.
Yeah, so your decorations and deeds and stuff will reflect how good a player you are and how long you've been playing for.
Right. So in other words, not how actually talented you are, just how stubborn you are.
Pretty much.
So
it's like being at your place of work for 15, 20 years. They'll give you a reward for it, but it doesn't mean you're very good.
Right. So the way that they've stated it is that you'll get stuff as you go on, but you're probably going to be limited to what you can actually display. So
which makes sense.
You
Otherwise,
may have
you'll be just festooned with stuff.
Well, I would see this as like think of it like housing, like player housing in most MMOs. Like you're going to have so many hooks to put things on.
That's right.
Like you can put, like on your left shoulder, you can put a Crux Terminatus if you've earned it, or you can put a giant winged chalice if you're a Blood Angel, or if you're a Space Wolf, you can put a wolf pelt, or whatever.
See, I'm thinking, what I'm thinking, the most common decoration for a Space Marine tends to be those little deed papers that are put on with wax.
Yeah, purity seals.
Purity seals, that's the words I'm thinking of. Couldn't bloody think of it. That's the most common thing. So I've got a feeling they're going to have their own hooks. So you'll probably have tons of those on you. But then the more extravagant things will be larger hooks, and there'll be a distinction between them.
Right. Another issue that was brought up was armor customization, particularly battle damage being default, applied, or removed. Because right now everything is all super clean. But from a game design and game art perspective, that's what you do. You make it all pretty and then you dirty it up.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is this, it's resource intensive, and also if you've decided to scar up your armor but the guy next to you hasn't, then the game has to render both of those. And besides, as it applies to Space Marines, you would not go into battle with battle damaged armor.
Oh,
because
God,
it's an affront to your armor.
You get it repaired in between battles, surely.
Right. Using the aforementioned environmental NPCs.
Precisely.
Clearly, grenades will act differently across different factions. If an Eldar throws a grenade, it's going to react differently than if a Marine throws one.
Remind me, I can't remember off the top of my head. Did they mention if there'll be different types of grenades, or is it just grenades?
I think right now they're just using a standard fragmentation style grenade. But I mean, they're going to do each of the grenades are going to do different things.
So we could possibly have like plasma grenades and vortex grenades and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
But that's probably, I mean, the more exotic grenades are going to be further out. I want the chemical grenades that the Emperor's children use. They like toxin grenades that make you all like stones and stuff.
Yeah.
Psych out grenades.
Psych outs, yeah, that's the one.
They have specifically said that this goes back to the shoulder and camera thing. First person shooting will not be an option. Words. First person shooting will not be possible with the design and gameplay in place. Miguel had hinted that it would be possible that you could switch back and forth. But it has since now been officially, quote, deconfirmed. Also, bike ramming is in. And when Founders Access... Yeah, right?
Totally.
And when Founders Access... Founders Access. When Founders Access releases, there's not going to be a checklist of things for Founders to go look for. Like, we get to go play and we get to break everything. And I'm a captain, so I get to go in first.
For those people that haven't played in the beta before, the whole point of this sort of early access stuff isn't for you to play the game. It's for you to break the game. If you want to stand around pressing the space bar all day, just jumping in space, do it. Because, someone will do that eventually. And if you can find a bug, great. It means a more polished game when it comes out, a better experience for everyone involved, and less flack that the team has to take. So, yeah, do pretty much what you have to do to break the game. Try to break the game.
But that being said, play everywhere. Do all the things.
Yeah.
And then
do all the
send
things.
your feedback reports.
Yeah, so when you finish like a mission and you get like a thing come up saying, "Hey, how did you feel about this?" Fill it out. Don't just, X out of it. Don't get rid of it. Fill it out and tell the team what you thought of it, because your feedback and your thoughts on this game are going to make it better.
Right. Okay, so into the warp and stuff, and that's what we got on Eternal Crusade.
Yay!
Shall we talk about other things?
Other things 40k related?
Like little miniatures that aren't the miniature game.
Oh, what? You think you mean that thing that you don't do?
Actually, sir, I was referring to Assassinorum Execution Force, which is a board game.
What is this board game? I have not heard of this.
It's relatively new. It is a, quote, fast-paced cooperative game for 1 to 4 players. It blends stealth, tactics, subtle forward thinking, and outright blazing violence into a fantastic, tense, action-packed experience that is accessible to board game players on any level.
Yeah, I'm just happy to see the assassins getting used for something.
You know what? I am too, for reasons. On the first thing about this, it's actually there's actually a copy at my friendly neighborhood game store. Oh, right. So I had a chance to kind of look at it without opening it up.
Nice.
My first thought is I like that Games Workshop learned its lesson from Space Hulk and from Dreadfleet.
Mm-hmm.
In that there are portions of the 40K universe, and Dreadfleet was fantasy, I know, but there are portions of the 40K universe that are not worth having as a miniatures product.
Okay.
Remember we've talked about this before about missing the boat on what chapter plays what game.
Yeah.
You know, the assassins are really cool, like one-off characters in the miniature game. But really where they shine is a style of gameplay that you will not find on the tabletop like Warhammer 40K. So Assassin or Execution Force is you're out to kill a person, and you're sort of working together to get this person killed. It's the Assassin Temples working together to assassinate people, which is the entire point of the game. You don't get that kind of thought process when you're fielding a Vindicare on the map of 40K. Of the 40K.
Of the 40K.
Right.
Like the internets.
I'm getting old. Anyway, so I like the fact that I can play a Vindicare Assassin and not get one-shotted.
I have to admit,
which
I
is
do
usually
like
what
the
happens.
models.
I do.
I'm looking at the models now, and they're really nice.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing that I like about the board games, because like I loved the Space Hulk Terminators. Now they're not legal for GW play, but I love them. Likewise, this Assassin Orm Execution Force. To be honest, and this is again my thing, one of my favorite aspects of the 40K Millennium universe, is the Inquisition. The Inquisition should not be a 40K army. They should be like an elite choice that you can take with your basic army, which detachments and all now and unlimited format games let you do that. But like really, they need to be a role-playing game or a deduction style game similar to Battlestar Galactica or Diplomacy or things like that.
Definitely.
They really don't, or Relic. They really don't need to be on the tabletop. And I think GW, in its effort to make as much money as it can, is starting to realize that certain parts of the 40K universe do not need to be used in certain contexts.
I think they are starting to catch on to that now, which is nice because that means that we'll get better stuff. But
right. The other big miniature news is the Adeptus Mechanis, also known as Necron 2.0.
Also known as We Copied War Machine.
Yeah.
Privateer Press. Hello, guys.
Right. Litigious. Well,
Yeah,
that's because Privateer is not, they're not British, so they're not really litigious.
I'm sorry, when I saw the Tech Priests, my mind instantly went to Privateer Press and War Machine. I just thought to myself, my God, someone's jealous.
Well, I mean, it's a completely different style of game. I mean, yes, it's a miniature game, but at the same time, you're dealing with mega games versus micro games.
Yeah, true.
GW is really good at the 1,000 to 2,000 point range, but when it comes down to small unit games, like less than 20 or 30 miniatures on a side, or less than 20, Privateer owns that niche, unless you start going super small like Malfo and Mercs.
Yeah,
when you're dealing like 5 to 6, 5 to 8. But anyway, the Adeptus Mechanis, aka Necrons 2.0. Giant death robots, tech priests, all of the things that have been sitting on Mars for all this time. Finally, they are out with their own miniature range because Games Workshop would rather create the Adeptus Mechanis line than advance its timeline or develop a new faction.
Character development? The hell you say?
Right.
Although
So-
I do like the character, the Tech Priest Dominus. That looks pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get
Pretty
that.
nice
I get
model.
that making a new faction or reviving a dead faction lets you kind of revisit some things. But like, I don't know. I don't dig the AdMech. I've never really dug the AdMech. Like, I don't like the part of 40K where the answer is, well, like, the way I've explained this to people is, okay, if you want to take something normal, like a person standing around. Now, if you want to make it steampunk, put a bunch of gears on it and give it a top hat. Okay, now if you want to take that and turn it into 40K, run weird industrial cables into weird places and orifices on the body and put wheels on the bottom. And that's 40K.
That's pretty true, to be honest. Yeah.
And like, I really don't need a miniature game where I'm just surrounded by industrial cables running from someone's mouth to their spleen.
From the mouth to the orifice.
Right. So, like, the AdMech were really good with tech priests and tech marines. Like, I don't need all the extra.
Yeah. Again,
I mean, I understand that some people want to do it, but
I mean, it's like what you mentioned about the Inquisition. You know, stuff like this. It really should be an add-on to your existing army to give them extra flavor. You know.
right. This was something that did not need its full, didn't need a full codex.
No, definitely not.
Right. So there are also 2 other video games we haven't talked about.
Some very good ones as well. Actually, I'm quite looking forward to some.
You
of
know
this.
what? This is true. Is Warhammer 40K Armageddon. I am not as interested in this game.
It looks
But-
good, but yeah.
No, it looks good and it looks like it does what it should. But at the same time, like, it reminds me of all the old PC games I used to play.
Okay.
You know, and I'm playing video games now like The Last of Us and Space Marine and Eternal Crusade, and I've kind of grown past the smaller low res, you know, icons and stuff, avatars.
Well, see, I seem to remember back in one of our previous episodes, someone saying their favorite rivalry in the 40K universe was Gazgul versus Thraka. Gazgul versus Yarrick, sorry. So,
I think
I'd
it's
have
one
thought
of the
you'd
more.
love this game.
Well, you know, like, okay, Gazgul and Yarick is awesome, and it's one of like the epic storylines of this whole series, and it's still an actual ongoing developing series, which is weird for GW. But at the same time, like, the more I look at the game, like, I don't know, like, I'm sitting here, you know, playing Drop Assault and waiting for Eternal Crusade and playing Space Marine, and this other game that we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, it looks like a fun game. I'd probably have fun with it if I decided to throw down the cash on it, but I just don't have the cash for it. It's one of those games that I would love to play if I could part my money from my wallet.
I have to admit, the choice of developer for this game was a bit weird as well. It's like, I personally, I've never heard of this company before. Slytherin, never heard of them before. I don't know what they've made. But I'm looking at their website, and they're not exactly what I would consider, you know, a top level developer. for something like this. And it seems to be a very weird choice by GW to
I
get
would
these guys to make it.
I would remind you that Behavior isn't a AAA MMO developer.
No, but I suppose.
They got their stuff in mobile games.
Yeah, I get it. Sharp
And-
Geek, alright.
You see what I'm saying? Like, they got their stuff in mobile games, and this is their first crack at an MMO and a AAA title.
But
So-
I mean, the difference is, well, the difference from what I can see at least is that behavior have looked at the GW universe. They've looked at what other companies have done, and they've basically said, you know what, that's really great. Let's use that as a basis. Looking at Armageddon, it looks like they were like, oh well, that's a great storyline and stuff you guys have got there. We're just going to make our own game out of it. And they've not really bothered to look at games that are in the same kind of genre as something like Armageddon, like, I don't know, Dawn of War. They've just kind of gone, well, let's make our own thing. And it doesn't seem to have done very well.
Right. Well, the other game that we're talking about is Dark Nexus Arena, which is the Heroes of the Storm of 40K. I say Heroes of the Storm because I refuse to acknowledge Dota or LoL. They are bastard off children of the Blizzard machine. So Dark Nexus Arena is a 40K MOBA. Puts you in control of a veteran warrior drawn from an array of races across the 40K universe. Thrown together in 2 teams, you battle for the amusement of your captors. Your captors, of course, are the Dark Eldar. And it's a brilliant use of a minor race.
Definitely.
Because this is what the Dark Eldar do in the 41st millennium. It's like, we're going to capture these people and throw them into a pit and make them fight. And then we will send out rabid dogs, and then they will beat them with their purse, and then they will have self-respect for the first time in their lives. Oh, wait, no, that's the Queen.
And then they
Right.
play the Star Trek music. Ba, 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 ba.
Right. But, I don't... Like, I'm kind of concerned about a MOBA. This is one of those games that it costs money for me to get into to try out.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm
why
not
I've
sure that I'm
bought into it
gonna.
yet.
Well, especially since I've already blown an obscene amount of money on Heroes of the Storm.
Well, you see what you know what really weirds me out is the control system.
Really?
Did you see the videos from the most recent
No.
con? No. I think it was PAX East they were showing off at. But this, despite the fact this is a MOBA, quite clearly a MOBA, it's not mouse-based movement. It's what they're terming a twin stick control game. So essentially, you're using WSAD to move the character around the map from a top-down perspective, going left to right.
Bizarre and awkward.
Yeah, just a bit. I really can't see how that's going to work because it's a MOBA. You do mouse movement, surely. And in fact, the only MOBA I know that doesn't do that is Smite, and that's only because Smite works from a third-person perspective. So WSAD makes sense in that game.
Right. But you know what I'm waiting to see? Like, and here it is again. We're about to put in the prediction of the show. I want to see a 40K brawler or a 40K fighting game.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Choose your chapter master. Right?
That would be pretty awesome.
In
fact, you know what? Horus Heresy would be perfect for that.
Right? Or no,
That'd
no,
be funny.
no. You've got it. We're about to talk about it. The Feast of Blades.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
True.
like the ritualized Space Marine chapter on chapter beatdown. Like
true.
it's a thing, and it's something that exists among the warrior brotherhoods of the Astartes.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So 2 months from now, when we hear about this, we're gonna be like, "We told you, send us our
Totally
chapter."
called it.
Also, we didn't put it on here, but have you seen the Armada trailer?
Oh,
The
totally.
Battlefleet Gothic Armada trailer?
Oh yeah. That's it. Now that you've mentioned that, this keyboard is completely ruined.
God. No. You know what? Armada is, for those of you that don't know Battlefleet Gothic, it is a starship combat game in the 41st millennium.
And possibly one of the best tabletop games in the 40k universe.
Right. So here's my thought, because I used to have some Gothic armies, some Gothic fleets, and Gothic ended up having the same problem that the Guard and the Tyranids have in Warhammer 40k, in that you really want to play them, but you don't want to spend the money to own it.
Yeah.
And that is why people love Winter Assault and Dawn of War 2. And that's why they'll love Battlefleet Gothic, because it's like we don't want to own them, because for the love of God, that's money.
Yeah, pretty much.
But at the same time, like, we want to play them.
We want to experience them.
Right. So we have covered most things. We're gonna cover a Legion, right? A Space Marine chapter.
Yep. The Imperial data slate for this week is the Dark Angels, the Legio First. Just as a side note, those who don't know the Dark Angels chapter, pretty much apart from the first company of the Dark Angels, otherwise known as the Deathwing, and the inner circle of pretty much the whole chapter, no like standard Dark Angel Marine knows pretty much anything of what we're going to talk about. So yeah, just a little thing there, just in case you were wondering. You know, only really the top people in the chapter know most of what we're going to talk about here.
And that's something that, we've talked about before, about them having a very kind of deep, kind of dark noir thing going on.
A Batman-esque background.
Right. Homeworld of the Dark Angels was originally Caliban, but it is presently a big, gigantic, floaty fortress thing called the Rock. The Primarch is Lion L. Johnson. Say again?
I was just saying the Rock is pretty much a fortress monastery on rockets.
Yeah. The current Supreme Grand Master is Azrael. Their founding, Lionel Johnson was scattered to Caliban. As we've talked about before, the Primarchs were all scattered by the forces of chaos. Caliban was very similar to medieval Terra. He was recovered by Luther, a knight of the Caliban's knightly orders, specifically the Order. Unlike most Primarchs, L. Johnson was overjoyed at his reunion with the Emperor. When he was given Legio 1, he set most of the Order to be upgraded to Space Marines. Some of them could very easily be turned into Space Marines. Some of them were genetically modified to be superior humans to fight alongside the Legion.
Yeah, Luther became one of those, didn't he?
Right, yes. So, also because the Emperor basically was like, here's the first Legion, I'm leaving. L. Johnson was like, oh my god, I want to go catch up to you and do your things. So he set most of the Order to be upgraded, and he grabbed the chapter and started terrassing across the galaxy, just like his daddy. At some point, L. Johnson was not happy with the quality and pace of training back on Caliban. So he took Luther, his most trusted knight, and a small cadre of Dark Angels, and sent them back to Caliban to oversee and train the chapter, the Legion. Luther and these people saw it as an insult, which it wasn't. It was actually a really high honor. But here, chaos begins to take root.
Yeah, the Lion was basically saying, hey, you know what? I trust you more than anyone else to take care of this. You need to deal with this so that we get a better quality of soldier.
So would you like to talk about what happened during the Crusade and the Heresy?
Yep. So the Dark Angels, while on the Shield Worlds, that was when basically Horus decided to launch his campaign against the Emperor, but turned around and tried to get back in time. Unknown to them, Horus had sent the Night Lords to intercept them on the Eastern Fringe to give himself time to get in position and assault Terra. The Angels got past the Night Lords and made it to Terra just before the Space Wolves and the Ultra Smurfs. The Ultramarines, sorry.
Those are the Ultramarines. That's Calgar's boys. You shut your mouth.
But not in time to save the Emperor, which struck L. Johnson with immense grief. Still saddened, the Dark Angels helped to pacify the Imperium, then returned to Caliban to...
Where the planetary defense batteries opened fire on them! No! The loyalist Dark Angels assaulted their own homeworld, finding the traitor angels known as the Fallen. Luther and L. Johnson, they fight in a battle that is very similar to the whole Horus Heresy combat. And very similar, L. Johnson is mortally wounded, and Luther wins, but the idea of killing his closest friend drives him insane, and he stops just short of actually killing L. Johnson.
Well, depends on how you look at it. You could say that it drove him sane, because it kind of drove out the chaos.
Right. So furious, the Chaos Gods scatter the remaining Fallen across time and space, including the mysterious Lord Cypher, or Cypher. So to wipe their sin from the cosmos, the Dark Angels eradicate their planet. Being far enough away from the rest of the Imperium, the Dark Angels proceed to silence any witnesses and go out of their way to bury any hint of the fact that they have lost this mini to betrayal. And not even telling their own Marines until they reach the First Company, whose sacred job it is to locate and capture the Fallen. The Dark Angels are so kind of deep in the, like, oh yeah, we're the first Legion, we're the best, we're the awesome, and then they fall horrifically. And
No, I was just thinking, it kind of depends on how you look at it, because yes, they've got this great backstory to them, but it kind of smacks of the old, dark backstory. The brooding Batman. I'm too scarred. This is why everyone says that the Dark Angels are emo.
Well, the thing is this, though. They have, like most of these guys, this is a chapter that fell. Like, this is if you follow this logic out, this chapter fell. And if you look at any of the, if you look at any of the philosophy or any of this other stuff of the Dark Angels, like, they are mortally terrified of the fact that if some of them could fall to chaos, they could all fall to chaos. And,
that's true.
And so they are very vigilant of trying to root out any kind of trace of that heresy.
I think they take it to extremes, though, because even if there's only a single Fallen detected on that planet, they'll send like an entire company's worth of men just to pick up that Fallen.
Right. So what I'm looking at is They have a fairly similar hierarchy to most Legion chapters, most founding chapters, first foundings. They have the Supreme Grand Master, who's the chapter master. They have the Grand Masters, which are the equivalent of company captains. The chaplaincy is home to Asmodai and the, quote, interrogator chaplains, which are chaplains, but they like to torture people.
They like to torture people.
And then you're dealing with Librarius, the librarian, which is Ezekiel, holder of the keys. As it applies, we talked about this with the Ultramarines. Every planet that generates Space Marines is centered around a particular warrior cult. And the warrior cult of the Dark Angels is that of Caliban, medieval knights of Europe. Winged helms are common. The tabards and hoods, what are referred,
the robes
what are
they wear
lovingly
over their
referred to as
armor.
dresses. Most of the Dark Angels are named after angels or demons of Christian tradition.
As you would have heard with the Grandmaster, Azrael, Ezekiel, Asmodai is a little bit of a weird one, but a lot of people don't realize that comes from Asmodeus.
Right. So the question is, what makes the Dark Angels special? We talked about the Ultramarines, and what makes them special is they're founded around the codex that their Primarch wrote. And that they tend to bite off more than they can chew, and they are the kind of the default leaders of the 41st millennium. Now, other people will bitch and throw up their Omagerd flag, but it's the whole... Honestly, it's why I think that we're going to see an Ultramarine as the faction as the faction leader in Eternal Crusade.
Probably.
Space Wolves and Dark Angels, too controversial. Blood Angels really won't care. Fifth faction is fifth faction. And that leads the Ultramarines. And the Ultramarines are more than happy to stand up and tell everybody what to do. Just ask them.
Pretty much.
So anyway, what makes the Dark Angels special? First off, the Deathwing. The first company, they wear bone white armor as opposed to the dark green that the Dark Angels normally wear. They are primarily Terminators. I mean, the entire first company are veteran Marines and whatever, but whenever the Deathwing meets up and works, they're in their white Terminator armor.
I was just saying, aren't they pretty much exclusively Terminators?
Yeah, well, the thing is,
Deathwing in any other armor makeup.
Well, that's the thing. If ever a first company is out of the Terminator armor, he's in his green.
True.
At least that's the way I've understood it.
Oh, that's fair.
The other organizational difference is the Raven Wing, the second company. They are almost exclusively vehicular, fast attack bikes and jet packs and jet bikes and stuff like that.
Land speeders
and stuff like that. Yeah. They're identified because they actually use the pre-heresy black armor. And they are a fast assault company.
And these are the two companies that are usually sent after a fallen.
Right, because they're the guys that sort of know more than the rest.
Yeah, a Dark Angel will start to learn a little bit about the Fallen in the Raven Wing, but they only know the full truth once they hit the Deathwing.
Right. Other things that make the Dark Angels special are Luther and the Fallen, which we talked about that before. Also, there's this other mysterious character that kind of dips into and out of lore depending on who you talk to and how big a fanboy you're dealing with.
White
and
Cloud
that is
looking at you.
And that is the Lord Cypher, also known as Cypher. One of the Fallen. He supposedly carries the sword of Lionel Johnson, and he is on a mission that only he understands. and he doesn't expect anybody else to understand it. And sometimes he'll work with loyalists, sometimes he'll work with chaos, which basically is like, we can't come up with a decent cohesive story on him, so we're going to continue to do "Ooh, isn't he mysterious" episodes.
Isn't the sword he carries called the Lion Sword,
Uh,
or part of the sword he carries?
they believe, here's the deal, it is either the shards of Lion L. Johnson's sword, or it is the actual sword he fought Luther with, or it's just a cool sword.
True. Although,
Um,
from what I read, part of Cypher's mission, or what he believes his mission is to get to the Emperor and to lay the
Yes.
sword in front of him. And
As a way to
apparently
redeem the
something will happen.
chapter, yes.
Yeah,
Or
apparently
redeem the
something
Legion.
will happen, but
Well, the thing is
God
this:
knows
the
what
Lord
it is.
Cipher, goes back to a position within the Dark Angel, within the Order, which is the knightly order that Luther and L. Johnson were both part of. The Lord Cipher was responsible for maintaining and enforcing tradition, and so this may be some big penitence thing that's going on. Again, nobody knows because Cipher won't tell anybody. And he's never been captured, and he always, or even if he is captured, he always manages to escape.
Yeah, doesn't he seem to drop in and out of the warp as if he was part of it?
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdness around him, which basically translates into, like I was saying before, we don't have a defined story on him, so ooh, isn't he mysterious?
Mm.
The other awesome thing about the Dark Angels is the whole Luther and Lionel Johnson dynamic. And again, this is something that only the inner circle knows. First off, Luther is still alive, and he's buried deep in a cell within the rock. And he mutters and he mumbles and he tells Azrael things. And one of the things he tells Azrael is that Lionel Johnson is alive, and that he is healing in a secret vault deep in the rock that only Luther and the Watchers in the Dark know about. And the Watchers in the Dark, for those of you that don't know, if you ever look at the model for Azrael, there's this little bitty guy in a robe who's carrying his helmet. And that is a Watcher in the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
It's this rare race that the Dark Angels know about, and they hang out with them, and the Watchers in the Dark know things.
Apparently,
But they
they've
don't
been
talk.
apparently they've been in the rock, their fortress monastery, since its building.
Right. And also, the Watchers in the Dark have a very specific claim to fame in the 40K universe. Do you know what it is?
No.
They cannot die at all in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Now, what that is that it's a random weird-ass model that doesn't have combat stats.
Hence, you can't target it.
Hence, you can't target it. Hence, you can't kill it. But it is part of the fluff that the Watchers in the Dark can't be killed.
Fair enough.
Also, the Interrogator Chaplains, which I said, those guys are they're chaplains who torture people.
Actually, this comes into Luther a little bit as well, because Asmodai, the High Interrogator Chaplain, all of the Interrogator Chaplains, basically their job is to make the fallen that the Dark Angels capture repent. And for each one that they get to repent, they get to put a black pearl on their Crozius. Is it Crozius Arcanum or the Rosarius?
I think it's the Rosarius.
It's the Rosarius, isn't it? Yeah, so they get to put a black pearl on their Rosarius. The High Interrogator Chaplain, Asmodai, his job is not only to manage the other Interrogator Chaplains, but to try and get Luther to repent. And not a single High Interrogator Chaplain has ever been able to get Luther to repent.
Unless there's nothing to repent from. Anyway. And the last Dark Angels thing, and it's something that I think Gigabyte is going to have a biased opinion on, is the very public, very overstated rivalry between the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves.
Yes.
Back during the Great Crusade, 10,000 years ago, Lionel Johnson and Lehman Russ, who's the Space Wolf Primarch, they got into a fight over the actions of Lehman Russ at the siege of the Crimson Fortress. This rivalry has continued to this day through a ritualized duel that usually ends up getting bloody. I remember somewhere, it's a story, I think it's a Space Wolf story about sneaking into some fortress and stealing a Dark Angel's chalice as like a proof of loyalty or something, or a proof of bravery.
What how the rivalry started?
No. This is
Oh.
something I read somewhere that like it's something that it might have been a battle report or something, where some Space Wolves were breaking into a Dark Angel sanctum to steal a chalice.
Oh, okay. Not something I
That
read,
was
to
funny.
be honest, but
I think it was a White Dwarf or something.
okay.
But the point of the matter is, this is a pretty deep-seated rivalry, and Dark Angels players will always have something to say about Space Puppies, and Space Puppies will always have something to say, or Space Wolves will always have something to say about
Emo
dress
Angels.
Marines.
Well, the rivalry. I was just going to say about the rivalry there. The story behind that is basically the governor of the planet where this Crimson Fortress was located basically insulted Lehman Russ's honor by calling him the Emperor's lapdog, and Lehman Russ swore to get this governor's head. And both the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves assaulted the Crimson Fortress, and Lion made it to the governor's fortress first and chopped off his head. Lehman Russ walked through the door just as that was happening, and a bit peed off with Lion, decided to punch him, which is fair enough. And that escalated into a brawl of immense proportions, which lasted for 2 weeks, I think is in the story. And at the end of it, Lehman Russ realized how stupid they were being and started to laugh raucously. Lionel Johnson took this as an insult and pretty much knocked Lehman Russ out and left with his legion. And that's what started the rivalry out, which is quite
Nice.
funny.
So, yeah, if you hear Space Wolves talking crap about Dark Angels, or Dark Angels talking crap about Space Wolves, then that's where you're getting it from.
Exactly.
Right. So, I think at this point, do we have anything else to talk about the Dark Angels?
Not that I can think of.
They'd be really awesome if they quit cutting themselves.
Yes. And stop styling their hair across their face.
Oh, man. Well, let's see. So we've talked about the Dark Angels. We've talked about the Ultramarines. We have, the Space Wolves and the
Blood Angels.
Blood Angels left to talk
whatever
about.
the fifth one ends up being.
Well, hopefully by then the Marine, hopefully by then the Marine fifth vote will happen, so we can be like, hey.
Well,
but
this was well timed.
Actually, given if we do this 2 weeks, then we'll be done with our fourth chapter. I think they'll finish the vote for Chaos before then. So what we may end up having to do is we may have to discuss some of the other legions.
What I was thinking today, actually, we could go through the already announced stuff and then just go back through the fifth subvotes.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is we had Dark Angels, Blood Angels, and Space Wolves, and then the Traitor Legions that are announced, like the Luna Wolves. I mean, Sons of Horus. I mean, Black Legion. And because I think doing Black Legion would give us some more background on the 41st millennium.
Definitely.
Because this is the thing that I love about Chaos, and they've ignored it over the last 2 or 3 codexes, or they've decided to push it to the background. about 3 codexes ago, they produced the Chaos Marine Codex, and they presented basically the heresy from their point of view, and not like, the Emperor is stupid, we will burn this all to the ground. Like, not that, but the word bearers were extremely super devout, and the fact that the Imperial Creed is still being used, even though the Emperor himself didn't want it and denounced it. So the thing is, the word bearers got rejected out of hand and forced to find something to worship because the Emperor basically backhanded them. Or the fact that the Emperor is a psyker, and then when Magnus uses psychic powers to find things, the Emperor's like, don't use psychic powers. Right? And I mean, no, this edition of the, I think it was for 6th edition of 40K, but the approach that they took with Chaos Marines was that only a handful of them legitimately hated the Emperor. You know, like Angron.
Yeah, pretty much.
Angron was very specifically fuck the Emperor.
Yeah, Perturabo was very bitter towards it as well.
Right. But the thing is, most of this had to deal with estrangement and rejection, and the fact that the Emperor wasn't the best dad ever.
Pretty much.
But anyway, this is all stuff we could talk about later.
Well, I mean, that's. I've been listening to the Horus Heresy books recently, the audio books, and that's something they really do well in that. They really paint that picture well, and you really kind of get that feeling. It's good.
Right. So, I think we're at the end of the show, right?
Pretty much. It just leaves the thought for the day, which this time is sometimes the good must perish, so that the rest may survive. So for Holosuite Media, for myself, and for Katsu, we shall see you anon. See you next time.
Ooh, you used fancy British.
Indeedly do.
The Adeptus Terra thanks you for tuning into tonight's broadcast of Vox Arkhona, a production of Holosuite Media. Be sure to check our website, iTunes, or Stitcher Satellite Radio for our remastered Voxcasts and more. You can follow us on Twitter at Vox Arkhona, or if you have any questions or comments, please send an email to voxarkhona@gmail.com. Return next week for yet another communique from the Vox Arkhona.